As an aside, by the way, before we start, Mike and I were watching this video about the animal weapon, and we were just trying to see which ones like look good. Why is every white mage just a whore? Like, why is all of their glamour just whorish? All of it, all of it.
Never understood. I never understood it. White mage is such a slutty class.
How are you casting holy, but you are decked out in sin? I don't understand.
You know why?
I don't. Explain it to
It's
me.
that forbidden fruit aesthetic.
Ew. I hate that. I hate that. I'll say that right now. I hate that.
See, I truly can't be a white mage player because my white mage glam is far too elegant.
Have you seen mine? Here,
Hold on. Let me post mine.
Oh no, everyone's posting glamours.
Hold on.
Okay, I'll post them here, and I'll put the
It's a
pictures in
game.
this.
Let me
video.
prove to you right real quick.
I'll put the
true.
pictures. I'll put the pictures. God damn, War Champ's a whore.
I've seen worse. I've seen
I've
much
been.
worse.
Yeah, but I just expect more from him, man.
Do you?
No,
Okay, that's what I thought.
but but Mike's is so fantastical.
Hold on, we're getting there. Don't worry.
Dude, my Dark Knight got her thighs out, man. Like
Not the Dark Knight, not the Thick Knight.
the crazy shit is my main is the one that's the least naked, the one that I'm on all the time.
What, the Black Mage?
But that's my flex clam.
Oh, true. Everyone has to have a flex glam. True.
That's Eureka dress, Boja weapon, PvP gloves. And I think there's one other thing that requires grinding in there. I want to get the Palace of the Dead earrings just to, slap those on and be like, yeah, even more dumb bullshit in this glam.
It's my white mage.
No,
Yeah.
you gotta be more naked.
No. You don't understand.
He looks like a pimp.
Yeah, that's why.
He
Yeah,
does.
That's why. That's why. Because in a world full of whore white mages, he
I'm
needs
the
somebody.
one.
Yeah, he's the one. He's the one to keep him in line.
The queue has popped, everybody. Welcome back to the Light Party Podcast. I'm your host this week, WarChamp7. I am joined, as always, by my great friends Tito, Mike, and Virum. Today, we're going to be discussing a little bit about combat, job design, combat gameplay. We're going to be talking a little bit about the high-level concepts involved in playing this game when it comes to stuff like dungeons, trials, and raids, and just kind of our general thoughts on the systems that we have here and how, what our thoughts on playing this game when it comes to actual combat. Tito, how you doing, buddy?
And look, man. Right now, I'm in Lower Lenoska, butt naked with an axe in my hand. So
Typical Lenosha experience. Yeah,
Yeah, I'm over
It's
here.
going good.
yeah, I'm just over here, killing bees, butt ass naked, whitey tighties out.
You in combat?
I am. Well, kind of. I guess you could call it that. I'm hitting 2 abilities, so I guess sure.
That's combat.
Yeah.
Mike, you been in any combat recently?
Oh, I'm about to be.
Oh yeah.
What does he mean by that?
I'm doing. We're working on the Bard. Working on Bard.
Oh, let's go. Fizz range is going to be a good topic for sure tonight.
His range is going to be very fun. Very exciting.
Virum, what you up to?
I too was in a couple of combat encounters before this. I was in I was on machinist. I was
let's
on
go.
all of the roles actually. I was on tank, healer, and DPS.
Yeah, you just had a fun little dungeon just a moment ago, I think.
I did. It was well, fun's a word. It's not the word I would have used in the moment, but it was a dungeon. It was a run. It was an uneventful one, but there was gameplay to be had.
Yeah, absolutely. Right, so I think like a good first spot for us to start with is a system that has kind of been faded out of the game. It's a little bit of a relic of its time, I think, back in the earlier days of MMOs, specifically the class and job system. that we have in 14. You know, a lot of the older stuff in the game, you start on a different job than what it turns into. And personally, at least, like back in the day, I was a huge fan of that like system from a game design perspective. Like I enjoyed that kind of like evolution process. But I think over the years it's kind of been faded away because it kind of adds friction to what a person is trying to do. You know, there's not really anything interesting about it in 14 except really like Scholar or Summoner. You know, they never really kind of took that system to an interesting point, I think.
I'm a Marauder right now. True.
So are we like
Like right now, I'm a Marauder right now.
The second.
right?
Like at this moment, I'm a class that doesn't exist.
What is your like general thoughts on like the class idea, Tito?
I think I'm of two minds. I always think of, whenever I think about this idea, I always think of that one meme that's like it's like the classic caption is, "You'll hate it when you notice," and then it's somebody's like DOW DOM screen where it shows like all their levels and they're all level 100. You're like, wow, that's impressive. And then you see he has like Marauder, Conjurer, like he has a Pugilist. Like he doesn't have any of the other job stones. Like he's level 100 fully maxed out on everything, but doesn't have a single tier 2 job stone. And I am really just in general, when it comes to any game I play, against mechanics that are not synchronous with the whole of the game.
Yeah.
Like I just don't like the idea of half of this applies to some of it, but then half of it doesn't. I think either it does or it doesn't. Now I understand in a live service game, especially one as old as this game, right? You kind of have to take a little bit of that because it will, in essence, evolve. But in general, I'm pretty firm on that idea of like, I think the job class system as it currently is fine with its spread. There's kind of like everything has a place: tanks, melee, fizz ranged, and then magical ranged, and then a healer. Sure, but other than that, I think the issues that I have are what's within those groups and how those groups are disseminated. And also kind of like, I don't know, man, it just pisses me off that there are 3 fizz ranged. Like that pisses me off. Like it's just like there's at least 4 of everything else. Like I don't know, that tilts me. That tilts me.
I think the problem with fizz range is like, what's your weapon? What do you do now? You already have a bow, a gun, and now you have like chakrams, which kind of equates to like throwing stars. What's next?
Oh, I know what it is. You actually want the answer?
I do want the answer.
Yeah. Give me the blitz ball.
Oh, true. You just
Let's
wanna
go.
Give me a blitz
throw-
ball. Dawntrail
Oh,
should have had a blitz ball class. Fuck this
No, you know
Viper
what?
shit.
I agree with Tito. We should have magic melees.
Yes. Yes.
Oh, like spell swords and stuff like that.
Yeah, we got magic range and a very low number of physical ranged, and then we have a
Mhm.
high number of physical melee. Give us a low number of magic melee.
Red mage should have been a
Red
physical
Mage would have been that class, yeah.
Red mage should have been it.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, I think if they went the route of actually doing that, I think they might like adjust red mage's design a little bit, and then move it over to that category.
Literally just flip it.
Yeah, be like this is now like Nah, you'd probably piss off a lot of red mage players if you did that though.
Oh no,
you'd
whatever
have to-
will we
I think-
do?
You'd have to overhaul the class, the job, because like what would a magic melee do? Would it just deal magic damage at melee range?
Yeah.
Yeah, you have like different elemental like sword hits and stuff like
Yeah,
that.
give me like Rune Knight or something.
Now we're cooking.
Actually,
Yeah.
with Dawntrail being a bunch of Final Fantasy IX themes, now would have been a really good time to do something like that because you have like the little God, what was it? Steiner's skill with Vivi, where he basically coats his sword. Like Vivi the black mage coats the knight's sword in magic, and he just goes off. It was really neat.
Yeah,
This
it'd be sick.
Would have been a good time for that. But,
Problem is they'd have to come up with like a unique melee weapon to do it.
Yeah,
But I mean, we just got Picto, so you know, they can do whatever they want.
Yeah,
true.
I mean,
If a paintbrush is a weapon, anything is a weapon.
I fundamentally believe it's not my job to be creative. Like in this, like in the sense where it's like, oh, when they need to come up with they need to come up with a creative weapon. That is correct.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's their yes. They make the game. I
Yeah,
shouldn't have
no.
to do that.
no, I agree. I'm just saying they've got a challenge in front of them.
I don't think it's that challenging.
Uh,
I really don't. Because the thing is, it's like, because when it comes to magic, because the thing about this game in particular is that like the different, like, you're not gonna sit here and tell me that what the monk does is not magic. Like, you can lure it away, but it's essentially magic. Like, go ahead and lure it away, but like I'm talking about in terms of how the class feels.
yeah,
So really, what we're saying is, like, because gameplay wise, talking about gameplay, when we say a magical melee, the I guess the biggest argument about why you couldn't do that is because what's the biggest gameplay reason between melee and magic is cast times. That's the most. With a melee, you don't really have cast times. You're not sitting there doing nothing and casting. You're moving, you're mobile, but you know, you have positionals to worry about, shit like that. So what would that look like as a melee class? As a magic class?
you just look at ninja.
Yeah.
Ninja and even samurai.
And samurai.
Yeah.
I mean, samurai
You
has
look, you look
costs.
at ninja and Sam,
yeah.
and then you basically take notes off of that.
I also think too, like I've talked about it before, but like Picto feels like a caster that was designed by a melee designer, and I
Yeah.
feel like you could take a lot of those concepts and apply them to like a magic melee class of just like the idea of, you know, having a cast time that is kind of banking some damage for later.
Yeah.
Like you'd have like a inverted red mage.
Sure. Yeah, that's kind of what I meant earlier when I said flip it.
Yeah, like you'd kind of back up, do some casts that like kind of bank your damage, then you go back in, and like instead of being ranged primarily, you'd be melee primarily.
Mm.
Could be cool. But like, so Tito, I got your thoughts on like classes, jobs, and I largely agree with you. And before I go too deep, I don't want to hear like from Mike and Virum, like, because this is I think part of it too is that this is kind of a system that has come from past FF games, and it feels like it was kind of just put in 14 because like, oh, FF has this, you know, it's like one of those core tenets. So Mike, like, what do you feel about classes?
I mean, like, I'm fine with how they're split, but when it comes to, I guess, like the jobstone system, right? So, like your gladiator and a paladin, I feel like there's a reason they stopped that after ARR, because like there's been no other. I'm gonna start as this and then work into this. It's always been like, hey, you're this and you're this forever. Um, and then like, it's okay, I guess. I'm not terribly a big fan of like starting as something and then working into something. I guess it works fine for like a story perspective, right? Like you train as a gladiator and you know, you're like, hey, go join this paladin order, and you're like, oh, okay, cool, that sounds fun. Um Monk did well with it, mostly from a story perspective, because there was like actually it was a plot point that you trained as a pugilist first. So like you were better equipped to deal with like the threat that was in the 60 to 70 monk arc.
Mhm.
Um so like there was fine. Like if you're going to incorporate it into later stories, perfect. If you don't, yeah, it can be skipped in my opinion, because like it kind of just boils down to like, hey, you can do this really well, but that guy's cooler at it than you. Go learn from him.
But he is
Eh,
cooler than you.
But he is, I mean, you know, more times than not, he is cooler than you. Um I think the biggest offender of that is Marauder to Warrior. Is just like you're man with axe. That guy is also man with axe under different name. I even think they describe it as like a lost art of being a warrior, and I'm like, that doesn't make sense to me at all. Like warrior is just like a general classification of a thing. I would feel like. What's the lost art of being a warrior?
in the wrist.
But it's it's in the wrist.
Yeah, obviously. Duh.
Um.
Fuck.
Now I do like how Arcan is split into two. If that happened more often, I would be more. eh, the jobstone system would agree more with me, but since that was the one exception, it's kind of middling. I feel like there was more that you could have done there. Like you could have had like a maybe like one starting melee DPS that went into the others, right? Maybe not leveled up in tandem like Summoner and Scholar do, but you could have started off as your one melee DPS and then like, hey, do you want to do Monk, Dragoon, Ninja? And you still kind of keep in the same spirit, but um it could have been skipped. That's kind of my 2 cents on it.
Definitely makes sense. Viram, how about yourself?
Honestly, my issue with Jobstones in particular is just the fact that, as we were alluding to earlier, you just get people that don't equip their Jobstone when they probably
That
should.
shit is so funny.
Yep.
It's like it doesn't happen super often, but every now and then you'll go into a duty, you get an 8-man, whatever, and you just see one person with way less HP than they should have, with an icon that they shouldn't have, and you're just saying, what is going on? It feels like it's one of those kind of weird archaic things in FF14 where like you should have to have a Jobstone equipped in order to do this content.
Yeah, past a certain point, it should be a requirement.
Yeah, but it's just not there. But then aside from that, I think when it comes to how the jobs are defined within the roles, I feel like as time has gone on, some of them have been like losing a little bit of their identity, and I feel like this happens. We'll probably get more into it more in depth. I feel like this has been happening with like tanks, especially, where you're kind of playing all of them very, very similarly. And I'd say overall Dark Knight is probably the biggest kind of victim of that, but again, we'll get into it in more depth later. But it feels like you mentioned before friction, and I think friction isn't necessarily a bad thing in a kit. I think
Agreed.
friction can help create gameplay identity and it help create nuance in a job, but it definitely feels like because of how accessible they've always wanted FF14 to be and how they've been kind of pushing that overall design mentality from what like Stormblood onwards, it seems to be the case. Jobs have been losing those elements of friction, and as a result, they tend to feel a little bit more homogenized than they did before. But I will say, at the very least, most jobs are still fun to play, at least at a fundamental level. As long as you're, pressing buttons well and having a good time, most jobs still feel, pretty good.
Yeah, I think gameplay wise, the game feels pretty good for what it's trying to do.
Hmm.
The class system, though, I don't know. I feel like I have a lot of thoughts on it. I kind of wanted to let everyone have a turn first before I go into my rant. It's not really a rant,
Kind of a rant.
but it's kind of a rant.
It's fine. Go ahead.
But it's one of those things where it doesn't feel like it has an identity in 14. It's a system that is from past FF games, and I think in past FF games it feels good. It feels really cool to like, start as a marauder or whatever and like level up to a certain point and then like, you evolve. Like this is a concept that is tried and true in video games. Like there are entire franchises and genres built around this. Hello, Pokemon. Like the idea of leveling something up and then it doesn't just, become level 50. It also becomes like a cooler version of itself and level 50. Like there's nothing wrong with that, but I don't feel like it has that identity in 14. And especially as someone who has played Final Fantasy Tactics Advance, which I think has one of the most interesting job systems I've ever seen in a video game. I don't know if it was the first one to do it that way. I feel like I've seen a couple games do it similar, but not kind of full blown the same
Could
thing.
you quickly tell me what
Yeah,
that
yeah,
is?
I was about to.
Yeah.
So like for anyone that hasn't played FF Tactics Advance, you do have a similar system where you start on kind of like a base class for something, and there's gear in the game for like your units. It's an isometric like turn-based game, and the gear for your jobs is mostly just stats except for your weapons. The weapons in that game also have an ability associated with them. So you'll have like, you know, the brass knuckles will be a pugilist weapon, and the brass knuckles will have a specific ability associated with it. And so when your pugilist has that weapon equipped, it is able to use that ability. Like it shows up in its ability lists. You know, like when you're playing FF, you have like all of the spells that you can cast. You get them from the weapon, and after you've used that ability enough times in combat, you like earn XP points towards that ability. And once you kind of fill up the bar, you master the ability, and now you can use that ability without having that weapon equipped anymore. So there's this kind of side progression on a character where you are unlocking abilities by using different weapons to get the weapon that like is attached to it. So like on a black mage is a great example because I know all the spells everyone does. But like you have one weapon that gives you fire, you have one weapon that gives you blizzard, you have one weapon that gives you thunder, or there might have been a rod in the game that gave you all three of the base ones. And then once you master those, then you are able to equip the weapon that will give you like Fire or Fire 2. And you'll start out as not a black mage. I don't know if it's Thaumaturge in that game.
But it's 14.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think there's a basic caster class in Tactics Advance. It's been so long, I'm not sure. But regardless, how it ends up working out is that the higher jobs that you like promote to or evolve to, you unlock those by mastering a certain number of abilities of like a base class. And for some stuff, it works out very simple. Like if there was like a basic mage class, it's like you master 3 mage abilities, you can now, you know, be a black mage or a white mage. Like that's how you unlock it.
Mm-hmm.
But for the later jobs in the game, it became a lot more intricate where like if you wanted to unlock green mage, you had to master like 7 black mage abilities and 5 white mage abilities. So now you had units in your party that at one point they're DPS and another point they're a healer, and they're learning and building up these abilities in their repertoire to be able to promote to like these higher things. And I thought that was really interesting. And I would love if 14 had kind of taken a system somewhat like that in some regard, where like, you know, leveling up another caster would have an impact on the other casters I play in some manner. That would be cool. But then I also understand why 14 doesn't do it, because, you know, we've talked about before that like 14's design philosophy is very centered around players' expectations of other players. And as soon as you create a system where like leveling red mage gives you like, you know, 0.1% more damage per level to all your other casters, you now create a situation where if you're doing like extreme content or savage content, you're not letting a black mage in your party that doesn't have every other caster at max level, because it's a damage loss to do that, which would suck. And you would create friction between players for having like, so the class system ends up in this weird position where it doesn't really have a strong identity because it can't do anything interesting, because in doing something interesting, it then has like a detrimental effect on like the community. Like it's like a consequence of a multiplayer game that they can't do something that interesting with it.
I mean, I think and that helps, because I think it gave me the idea of what, for me, the biggest problem with the whole level up class system, at least for me, is. And I think in general, and this also actually, I think actually, if I was gonna be critical even of my favorite class, which is Gunbreaker, I think Gunbreaker is actually one of the most like flagrant, like flagrant examples of my problem with a lot of the class in FF14 is that if you really look at them, especially in Virum, I think you're talking about the way like how all tanks end up feeling like the same.
Mhm.
All
Yeah.
of them essentially like the only difference is cosmetic if you look hard enough. There's nothing really that separates gameplay wise to, I think, an acceptable or even significant degree the gameplay loop of a Gunbreaker versus the gameplay loop of a Dark Knight versus versus the gameplay loop of a warrior or a paladin. Warrior and paladin I think are the most similar because at least Gunbreaker and uh there's resource management to a degree when it comes to the later tanks. So I guess that's cool, but even then, okay, man, sure. Like they had to highlight when you go. Hey guys, when you go to level 90 plus, you get a third charge of your gun, so you can now explode 3 times. Wow! And I'm like, okay, that's cool. But how many things in this game are fill the bar, empty the bar, fill the bar again? Because it feels like it's all of them. Like all of them are just fill the bar when the bar is full, do the things you can only do when your bar is full, and then do it again. And when you're playing a tank, I don't like the idea that the intricacy of my class is coming from not the actual class itself, but the fights that I'm in or the content that I'm in. I don't feel any real agency when I play my class, like at all. I feel like I can play if I know where my buttons are, I don't have to look at my screen most of the time or my abilities most of the time. Like, and I don't know if I like that. And I think that ties to what you're saying, Warchamp, of like that whole like there is an expectation of, you know, I would love it if there was a I'm going to pick a mage here. If there was a mage that had a bunch of different buttons that, let's say it's kind of like I want a more complicated red mage stance where it's like, okay, you can put the dot here, but you can also do this, but you can also do this, but you can also do this, and all of these are different based off of whatever the fuck you're talking about, whatever the fuck you're fighting. And so you have to not only know what the fight is, but you have to like I want active choice. And I also want that choice to be spread amongst the other similar jobs. If I'm a tank and I'm playing Gunbreaker, I shouldn't feel that I could pick up another tank and play the exact same way, but I can. And I don't know if I like that. I don't know if I like that.
Yeah, it's very similar with healers as well. Like with healers, like especially once you're at higher levels, it kind of just boils down to press your main attack button, keep your dot up, and then OGCD heal most of the time, and then GCD heal when things are a bit more dire.
Right.
And all four of them follow that kind of same-ish philosophy. You get the slight differences between Scholar and Sage, and then, you know, Astra and White Mage, because the former are focused more on the preemptive mitigation of damage, while the latter two are focused a bit more on being able to regenerate the damage that's been taken. But even then, again, at the core, you're still just pressing the OGCDs in response to enemy attacks. And yeah, I don't know. It's weird though, because while I do think you do create an interesting idea with having the more active choices between the different jobs. One thing that I think they've clearly kind of tried with the Final Fantasy XIV design philosophy is that they want to create a sense of unity between players with the whole kind of 2-minute window meta that they have going on And I think when you add more active choice to that, particularly with the current or even like the past level of Savage and just high end content, I think it might maybe start becoming to feel might start feeling a bit too loaded for a lot of players in order to kind of maximize everything and feel like you're in sync with the other players.
So our problem really is, as always, is that we gotta accommodate for the trash niggas. That's really what we're saying. Like
A
like
little bit.
like because
It's
my problem and War Champ, I 100% see what you're saying. Like I know what I see what the example you use, and I also kind of see like there are multiple ways to address kind of the same issue, which is when I level up my class, and we're gonna have an episode on leveling, trust me. But like when I level up a class, or when I'm learning a new class, what is the fantasy, for lack of a better term, or like the ideal that I want to get aesthetically from this class? How does that actualize itself in gameplay, and how does that class interact with the other things that I play? So this might be a hot take. I feel like I shouldn't be able. I feel like matchups should matter more in MMO.
Yeah.
I shouldn't be able to take the same class. If I'm a DPS, I shouldn't be able to take the same class into any fight in the game and perform similarly. I should have to be like, okay, so I'm in M4, I'm in M1S. Okay, I am a DPS player. Okay, so I'm going to, or I'll just use tanks. If I'm a tank player and I'm going in M1S, okay, there's I need a little bit more mobility, but I also need a little bit more burst window. So maybe I'll play Gunbreaker for this one, and for the whatever. Okay, if I'm in M2, okay, I'm gonna need a little bit more mobility. I'm also gonna need to have the ability to kind of do damage as in more frequent windows, but specifically my opener as an example. I'm just making shit up. But like, okay, so I'll play Dark Knight here. Like, I want to
Yeah.
have that choice. I want to have that discussion in my head of going, okay, I'm fighting this fucking bee lady. Maybe Paladin's not what I want to fight here. Like, that's what I want.
I have a lot to add to this, and I want to let Mike get a word in first.
Yes, go ahead, Mike.
Sure. I mean, I agree with that. I think Final Fantasy 14 is in a very unique situation where you can actively switch your job at any time, right? If you and like comparing it to like um to most other MMOs where like if you want to change your class, you basically have to make a new character. If you're in a unique situation where I can freely change from range DPS to melee DPS to caster to healer to tank, matchup should matter. Like that. Not only now, I get it. Some people like to main certain jobs. They like to pick their one job. They're stuck there. They're like, I want to do this for everything. That's fine. I understand. But you should struggle sometimes, right? Because you have the free agency to change your class. This so now if certain matchups are better, you now have motivation to go try something new, right? Like now that could cause some issues in party finding. Um if someone's really hard stuck on a class and let's say their matchup's bad for that particular piece of content that they want to go for, they'd be like, well, we don't want you here, right? um because you're refusing to change your class. And that just boils down to social communication, right? Like some people are just sticklers like that, some people like to be flexible. um so you kind of have this weird double-edged sword where like you want to be inclusive to where everybody can do everything and be comfortable doing anything, and then and try not to have like people jump down each other's throats and be elitist about it. But you also want to make things different enough to where they feel like the gameplay loop isn't like I'm just gonna press 1, 2, 3 and be fine. Um, I I think like the best group of classes that kind of do that is like going back to healers, having the definitives, like the two, like the shield healers and like burst healing. They did it right. Like healers, that's where they want to be. That split, despite later content, they kind of feel similar, like you're doing similar things. That split between like I'm focused on shields and then I'm focused on, you know, you got the big owie, I'm gonna heal you now, as opposed to I just mitigated your owie, so we don't have to worry about it. I think that's kind of where you want to be with certain things, right? Like maybe with tanks, you have your um like your paladin, your hard defense. Like, Paladin, I'm just not gonna do any damage, but I'm gonna sit there with my tower shield and everybody's gonna be safe. And then Gunbreaker has like their mitts is like I can live, right? Maybe not as well as a paladin, but I can also help with damage. Like my healer's gonna have to work more, but my DPS get to relax a little bit. Like maybe it's and it comes to like the weird little balancing issue. And so I can see why they want to keep the simplicity, I guess, for lack of a better term, of some classes, just to kind of keep
Yeah.
people in. But
I
yeah,
think uh, a little bit of it is that, 14, I feel like they try not to be too opinionated about how you should play the game.
mhm,
It's a little bit of a meme in the community, even when it comes to like the toxic positivity folks of just like, you don't pay my sub.
right,
Like, let me play the game the way I want to play it. If I want to go into a dungeon without my drop zone equipped, like the developers have let me, so like, shut up, let me do what I want. And I think that's a big part of it, is that the game, they don't want to force people too hard towards like a certain style of like, playing the game, or like tell them how to enjoy it. But I think to a certain degree you have to.
Yep.
And I think 14 is kind of getting pulled in two directions on that. Viram, touched on a good point of like the homogenization of jobs, especially tanks. Yoshi P has talked about it in an interview that he thinks they went too far on this. Like they absolutely made it so that there's not really a strong identity to the individual jobs. It's just like, yeah, you're not playing Dark Knight or Paladin, you're playing tank.
Yep.
At the end of the day, like you're choosing your thematic flavor and ultimately doing the exact same thing on all of them. And that kind of sucks. And I know what they were going for with that, and it's that they don't want a person to get snubbed from certain content just because they're playing a job that's bad at it, right? This has happened, before in 14. It happens in MMOs. It's like it's a big thing in WoW too, that they tried to combat, which I'll touch on that as well in a second. But the idea that like, oh, like, for this raid tier, like Paladin just sucks ass, and then like, anyone who's playing Paladin just doesn't get to play that content. I get that they want to avoid that, but you also have a game that is like designed and built around the idea that you can play multiple jobs. So why not just create that expectation for players? Like, they have the armory bonus, right? Like when you're leveling a lower level job, it goes faster. Why not just like amp that up even higher for jobs in the same like role or like category, and then just create that expectations for players that like, if you want to do the super high level content, like as a tank, you're gonna have to have more than one tank. It's the sort of thing where like they don't want to create that expectation to players, but like, why not?
It's so, I mean, it's just one of the things where it's like they're it's so aggravating, because it's like, especially when it comes to higher tiers of content that is optional, like they don't want to, it's like they want their cake and eat it too. And that shit's mad annoying. It's like, don't give me higher difficulty content that's meant to be, don't give me try hard shit if you don't want me to try hard.
Yeah.
Like don't do that. That's actually crazy. Like
or build around it.
or yeah.
You know,
Like you can like don't expect people to try hard or to not try hard, or at least restrict their ability to try hard, but then still give them try hard content. Like that doesn't because then you're fucking
Yeah.
everybody.
it's very middle of the road. Like we don't want to, you know, commit to any particular style of play, but it's like at a certain point you do have to. And I think the game would benefit a lot from doing that. You know, like creating, and it would also help with like the class stuff. Because like if you did have something where, you know, having other tanks leveled like made all of your other tanks stronger in some way. If the game is designed with that, you know, intentionality, and it's easier than it is now to like level other tanks, so that it's not, you know, as much of a tedious process, then it's no longer such a bad thing to create that like requirement for players. You know, or at least like maybe not require them to get to max level. You know, like maybe if you get a tank to level 20, all your other tanks get like, you know, 2% more damage, and then at least they just have to try the other ones, you know, if they want to do maximum damage.
Exactly.
Because like if you're in just a dungeon, no one's gonna care. No one's checking.
No one's checking. Who's checking? I'm not.
And it's like, oh well, like, you know, if we add the system, like then players will start checking. It's like, okay, just like ban them for, you know, all the other shit that you ban people for being toxic for. I think it would solve a lot of the things we're talking about, if they would kind of commit to that idea of a player is expected to at least touch more than one job. Because it's like, then why do you have like the free job changing system on a character anyway, if you're not gonna expect players to dip their toes into that at all?
Why
You know?
why the fuck would you make that coolest shit Shadowbringers trailer
Yeah.
where he's switching goddamn classes in the middle of the goddamn fight if you don't want me to do that?
That's the thing, and it's the other thing I wanted to touch on is that for WoW, you are stuck playing one thing on a character, and this is actually something they just addressed in the expansion that just came out, with their new warbands feature, where there's a lot of like character progression that used to be tied to a character that they've now made like account wide essentially. But there was a little period of WoW where they were kind of echoing this mantra of bring the player, not the class. And it led to a lot of the same like homogenization problems where they didn't want, you know, rogues getting snubbed for raids because they just sucked at PvE damage. You know, they wanted every class to kind of be able to do everything. And lo and behold, that wasn't great. Like, it wasn't fun. Like it led to a lot of like unique identity for jobs going away. So I think they backpedaled on that a little bit. And now, you know, you have a situation where, yeah, sometimes like you just won't bring a particular class to a particular piece of content. And now that they've made a lot of, you know, character progression account wide, that's also less of a problem. So here in a game where FF14, where that's already built in, you can already like play every job on a single character. That stuff is already shared. Like, why don't you do that?
And as always, and we always get back to this thing. We always get back to talking about fighting games, Virum. Like we always, this week matchup. This is why even in the best fighting games, right? Even in the fighting games where they're the most similar, nobody, and I mean nobody that I know would argue that playing Ken is not more fun in later iterations than he was before. The more unique Ken got away from being Ryu, the more fun Ken was.
Yep.
Like, when Ken was supposed to be player 2, Ken is player 2. Like, Ryu is player 1, and that way both of you can play Ryu. If you want. Go ahead. Play Ryu. But no one's going to sit there and look at Street Fighter V Ken and be like, man, that shit kind of... Or no one's going to sit here and look at Street Fighter 6 Ken and be like, man, I wish he was Ryu again. And even Ryu changed.
Yep.
Like, even Ryu is not who he is, because take all the Shotos, all of them, literally any of them, all the Shotos. Ken, Ryu, Gouken, Akuma, Dan. Like, no one's going to sit here and be like, man, they should all play exactly the same. I don't need Demon Flip. I don't need my taunt. I don't need kit. Like I just don't understand. It's such a weird thing about Final Fantasy 14 specifically, because there are times, especially when it comes to particularly gameplay, where it feels so disconnected from the entirety of Japanese philosophy on game design. Where Japanese game design, in a lot of instances, is about character identity. You play this fucking character, you feel like you're playing the shit out of that character.
You play this thing this way.
Yes.
Mm.
And the skill of it comes from, can you adapt the way this thing plays to the thing that you're doing? Oh, and the skill also applies to, there are other things in this game that might apply better. So that's also good. Like, you should all, like, I don't know, man. Like, it's just,
because I had heard mention of it one time, but I guess with Stormblood coming out, there, right, like pre-Stormblood, there was a cross-class action system where certain skills could be used by other classes,
Mhm.
and it would motivate you to go level something else. Like, what's a good one? Swiftcast, for example. You had to have Thaumaturge at 26, otherwise you didn't have it, period. But you could throw Swiftcast on other classes because you had Thaumaturge at 26.
See, that slaps.
Like,
I want
Um,
that.
To
another
me,
one is Cure. Cure and Physic were cross-class.
lol.
Like, you could be a gladiator or a marauder that had Cure for fun.
Doesn't that also tie into the whole thing of like, hey man, I'm the fucking warrior of light. like, doesn't that also just feed into the whole thing of like, my superpower is that I am everything. Like, isn't that the thing? Vera, what were you gonna say?
see, to me, it's like that kind of system sounds super fun in a single player RPG or a tactics game,
Mhm.
but less so in the context of Final Fantasy 14. And maybe it's because, all of my time with this game has been spent post Endwalker, but I think it just kind of shatters expectations that I would have of jobs and players at a lot of levels, or alternatively, it reinforces expectations of like, well, I would just go into stuff like thinking, why don't you have this skill? Why haven't you spent the time leveling this job? But then it's like, well, maybe they just don't enjoy the job. Maybe they don't want to go through the tedium of leveling the Thaumaturge to 26, even though they fucking hate Thaumaturge and never want to go anywhere near a black mage or something.
Now,
And that's the thing, is that like, if imagine popping into an extreme or a savage and your white mage doesn't have Swiftcast, like the players in your party are going to riot. But at the same time, you're specifically queuing into hard content that you already have to do like some form of grinding for to get yourself like geared and prepared for it. So it's like, what's one more XP bar? Like they're so afraid of that kind of friction in the community that they're not looking at the fact that the places where this would matter, players already have to like expend effort. So why is it such a bad thing for them to have to expend another kind of effort?
Well, it's not even that they have to expend effort. It's the fact that they have to, like, they are now accountable. That's the problem. Is that they don't want they don't want the other players to hold other players accountable. It's like, if I'm sitting there and I'm doing whatever, if I'm doing Extreme Bird, right? Let's say I'm doing Highland Extreme and I'm sitting there and I'm like, okay, I don't expect you to know the fight. You'll learn the fight. I don't expect you to know the mechanics. That's fine. I don't even expect your rotations to be good. But if you're queuing for this, that tells me that you are fully understanding what you need to do this. And if you don't, then you can't. Now you're fucking up my game. Like, what?
That's how players already are, though. And it's like,
Exactly.
Yeah. So then what? So then, but in this situation, if they're gonna be like that regardless, well then shouldn't you just incentivize players to play more of the game? and expand? Because what if a player doesn't play Black Mage because they don't like the way it looks, but now they have to for 20 levels. 20 levels. I just hit level 16 on my Marauder during this show. I'm level 16 already. I just killed like 6 things in the fucking Losha, and I'm almost there.
You can hop in Halatali right now.
Right.
You can hop in a leveling roulette right now. You'll
Right.
jump to level 20.
Right.
Even in like those 20 levels, like maybe you didn't like it before, but maybe you like it now.
That's exactly what I'm saying. What if when you play it, you're like, wait, hold on. This shit's kind of fire. Hold on.
I had a similar moment to that. Like, so I leveled Ninja just to get the job stone, right? And then I played it from 30, and I was like, man, this kind of sucks. And then like the second I got my 3rd sign, the second I had access to like every ninjutsu from 30 to 50, I was like, wait a minute, this job
No, fuck
kind
you.
of fun.
No, fuck you.
No.
No, fuck you, man. You're not. Fuck you, man.
I'm
Hey,
leveling.
Hey,
I'm gonna level.
hey, fuck you, man. I'm buying a level skip. I don't care. I get 2.
I'm
One of
not.
them's going on Ninja. I don't care.
I'm
You
not,
can't make me
but
play that. Fuck you, man.
you still got to play it for 10 levels.
That's
nerd.
hey. I don't. I can go frontline that shit the whole time. Fuck you talking about? I don't have to hit a single button on that class.
Anyway,
Full jobs.
so now once I hit level 50, like I'm 51 in it, so I haven't put much investment, post ARR, but my outlook on that class drastically changed in those 20 levels. So, I mean, like encouraging other people to like having a system in place that encourages people to try other jobs, it maybe you end up liking it and you play it all the way through. Maybe you don't and you just say, "Hey, fuck this job" when you get the skill that you need and you never touch it again. But at least you could say you got it.
Hear me out. Let's hit it where it hurts. Hear me out. You guys ready for my toxic idea?
Fire away.
What if they were like, all right, you don't have to, we're not going to lock any skills. We're not going to lock anything. Go ahead. You can play whatever class, but unless you got all your jobs leveled in that job factor, in that job family, like ranged, melee, whatever, tank, whatever, unless you have them all, everything leveled to like 30, all your double dies are locked.
Not the double
Ooh.
dice. No, we
All
just
your
got
all your double dies are locked. All of them for the whole roll.
That's crazy.
For the whole roll. You don't you love playing Astro, but you still have Conjurer at 1? Sorry, you can't double die any of your Astro shit. Sorry, brother.
hit him where it hurts. Hit him in the gland.
Sorry, brother. You can't. You love double dying your fucking shield or whatever when you're playing Paladin. You love that shit. Oh, you still have a Marauder on your shit? Sucks to be you, brother. Like, just
Not me with Thaumaturge still at level 0.
yeah. Sorry, man. Sorry,
Unable
brother.
to die my Pictoglam.
You can't die your pick. No. You can single die. You're
Can't
good.
double die my
You can't double die.
Pictoglam.
You can't double die. So you better stick to any of that bullshit that got 1 channel. You're looking at it, you're like, damn, I wish I had 2. And when you see it has 2, guess what? Locked. Fucking locked. Damage.
I think the job for me that and this is something that kind of bothers me across a lot of jobs, a handful of jobs, but it's particularly egregious with Conjurer, because Conjurer / White Mage, up until about like mid 70s, is probably the most boring job in the game. It is so horrible and doesn't really feel at all like how the job feels at later levels.
I agree.
But then, as soon as you get a Flatus Misery and a Flatus Rapture, suddenly you feel like you're playing a real job.
Yeah. The second says, "Here's a flower." Wait a minute. We have liftoff. Yes.
Like 1 to 50 White Mage is just not like, it doesn't teach you how to heal.
Wait,
it doesn't
is
teach
it
you the
worse?
role.
Is it worse than like sub 50 Reaper?
Yes.
That's crazy.
Dude, I
Probably, but also you've got to remember that you never have to play sub 50 Reaper, theoretically. Like,
Theoretically, yeah.
if you want to actually play the job in content, you can just, you take your level 80 Reaper and you just keep doing level 80 plus content. But with White Mage,
You start at
unless you
1.
get that level skip, you have to play Halatali. You have to play fucking Sastasha. If you're trying to level this job,
That's Stasha hard, bro.
Start
No.
regular because it sucks.
Oh, true.
and you're at level 50, your only fucking heal is Cure 2. You don't
Cure
have
2?
an OGCD heal yet.
No, I hit Cure 1. I hit Cure 1.
Don't hit Cure
Ew.
1. Don't be that person.
Yeah,
No,
don't do
I'll hit Cure 1, brother.
No.
I didn't add Cure 2 to my hotbar.
What?
They're the same, you know, like whatever, man. They're the same thing, right? It can't be that
No,
big of a
they're
difference.
not.
Crazy
You know?
that this
It
is
can't-
the last episode because we killed Tito.
Oh
Actually,
no,
you know
not
what they
me.
should do?
Not
You know
me
what I
looking
want-
at my conjurer. No.
You know what I wanted them to do? When you get Cure 2, it should just replace
Remove.
Cure 1.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. I don't know why
Why
it doesn't
does
do
it
that.
not do that?
I don't know why it doesn't do that.
Yeah, it should. Cure should go to Cure 2, and then you just have Cure 3 over there because Cure 3 is a completely different thing.
I just don't know why it doesn't do that. I
Yep.
think it's so funny because it's like I'm playing Red Mage. I have Jolt, and then it goes to Jolt 2, and then it goes
Yep.
to Jolt 3. I don't have to hit anything.
It's because they wanted you to like
I don't care what they wanted.
spam Cure 1 to get that very middling 15% chance to make your 1000 MP cure for free, but like also lucid dreaming exists, so you don't care, and you're just gonna spam Cure 2 anyway.
It's the
Cure
trap. It's
2.
strictly worse.
It's just strictly worse.
So many people fall into the trap.
It's so bad.
I appreciate how we're in this in the course of this show. This is like the third time Virma's brought up Cure 1. Like this is like it's becoming real beef. Like
It's
It's
for good
just- I
reason. That
just-
still sucks.
Yeah. That and low level Reaper. I'll always bring up low level Reaper.
Lower Reaper is
Liar.
fucking is
Dog water.
dog water, bro. It's
Like-
booty butter.
No positionals until 70, man. Like, come on.
Like at all.
Hey, you want to feel really bad for me?
Sure.
I
God.
ran Palace of the Dead 1 to 100 as Reaper.
Why?
Actually, yeah, that is something because obviously content like, you know,
What you
old
did.
Ultimates, Palace of the Dead, all of that stuff, you know, you are level sync down. So actually, no, these points do matter.
Yeah.
Make these jobs feel like real jobs at low. Here's what I don't get, right?
Yo,
Okay.
talk to these niggas, Vera.
I backed up.
Why is it, you know, Dawn Trail, we get the 2 new jobs, Viper and Pictomancer. Pictomancer feels like a real job at 50. You know, you've got 2 of your core motifs. You get the third one at 70. There's a proper progression in how the job is played, and you gradually come to understand the job's toolkit.
Yeah, because
And
it's got
everything
like 4
is-
spells.
Yeah. But even then, everything is kind of still gradually fed to you. The overall gameplay loop of the class makes sense from quite early on. Viper is not like that.
No, it's not.
It's not like that at all.
Terrible.
Not even remotely close, and I don't understand why. And it's not like a melee DPS thing specifically, because Monk and Dragoon don't have this problem. Ninja doesn't really have this problem.
You know what? I've had my theory about Picto being designed by a melee designer. I wonder
Was-
if that's what happened. If Viper was designed by like the fucking Black Mage guy,
the
like
Black
yeah,
Mage guy.
They just
No, what
switched
happened
desks
was that what
for,
happened was
like,
that
Dawn
they're
Trail
both in a professional development program, so they were shadowing. And yeah, they were doing some shadowing, and they were like,
They
"Wha-
just,
They just got their wires.
they just
crossed,
like
they
needed
showed
some new
up.
ideas. So just like okay, we'll trade roles.
"Babies first class."
Yeah. We'll get the range guy to design a melee, and we'll get the melee guy to design a range, and we'll get something that's never happened before. Because
Never happened before.
That is why Viper has the best disengagement tools. That's why it's the best at disengagement.
we've cracked the fucking code.
Woo!
As always, they come to the Light Party podcast for answers. Like we could provide, like we basically work there. Yoshi,
Get me in there.
True.
Yeah, I think without going too far down like the leveling discussion, I have always been frustrated about doing content at max level and just kind of like that XP just kind of leaking into the void. Because in a game like WoW, where it's one character, it's like okay, yeah, you're max level, like you don't get XP anymore. But in 14, you do still get XP if you're on a job that needs it. And if you're on a job that doesn't need it, then it just kind of like disappears. It just goes into nothingness. And I hate having to choose my roulettes between getting XP on a job that I'm leveling or getting like tomestones. And I get that that's kind of the trade-off, but for something like, level 100 roulette, like I can't do that roulette without 100. It's like I'm always going to get tomestones no matter what. Like, why can't XP that is earned when you're on a max level job, like maybe not all of it, but at least like some portion of it should go into like a bank or like give you some kind of currency or resource or something that you can then spend on another job at like a reduced rate or something.
Like
so that
EXP share, basically.
kind of exp share, like I want to be able to like bank some XP onto leveling another job. Like, and the problem to solve there is, okay, well, like you don't want a person just spamming nothing but Black Mage at level 100 and banking a fuck ton of XP and then like maxing out a tank having never touched it before and then not knowing like how it works at all. And I think the solution there is that it should give a currency that lets you like buy a Hall of the Novice thing that's like complete this quest thingy and you boost like Dark Knight to 20. And it like teaches you all the basics of like Dark Knight 1 to 20 stuff. And then, you bank up some more XP, you get another MacGuffin point and you can spend it on Dark Knight again. And it's like, okay, now you do like the 20 to 40 Hall of the Novice quest to learn the stuff that you just got. Like basically earn and like buy a boost for yourself, but still teach the player so that they, get some knowledge despite not playing the job ever up to that point,
Or maybe as well, like you could also do a thing where you bank XP with your experts or things like that, but then at intervals, like it doesn't work. Like it's different currency. So it's like this XP will work until level 50. So we're like or like work at level 30. And then you have to level you can't, then there's a big gap. And then it caps at like 90 or whatever, they're like 10. So basically like you can't level anything not on the main class after 90. After it's 90, you gotta like hold that. You gotta like go do elephants or something.
You still gotta play it a little bit.
Yeah. So basically it's like they determine what tier of play, like sub 30, then like 50 basically, and then 70, and you know what I mean? Like,
yeah. Just give me something. Like Frontline's right there. They're already kind of doing this.
Yeah, that's true. Because, like I said, you could level. I could level Rogue 90 to 100 with never having touched it.
You could level any job from like 1 to 100 without ever touching it with Frontline.
Yep.
It's like, why not just expand that to the rest of content?
Doing that with Dragoon literally right now.
Well,
I think they just hit 80 something recently.
And I think the reason they do that is because they need players in Frontline, so they need to have that like insane incentive.
Right.
I don't think they would do something like that otherwise. But I think they should.
Is there a class that you guys feel particularly, since we're talking about combat, in each role that matches this aesthetic 1-to-1 from a combat perspective?
That matches its aesthetic?
Yeah, like when you is like
the job fantasy.
Yeah, like does it scratch the itch that you're picking when you play that job to a satisfying degree?
Picto does really well with it.
I'm gonna keep it a buck.
Pick up a paintbrush.
Yeah, Picto seems really fun that it does that. As much as I shit on it, like actually I think what do you call it? Fuck, I just had it in my brain. As much shit as I was talking about it last week when I was saying that they were the worst. Fuck.
Dancer?
No, that was
What, Red Mage?
Samurai.
Samurai, yeah.
I think Samurai does that pretty well, actually.
I think, yeah, it does it very well because its strongest attacks are casts. And I think that works really well in the context of what the job is. Because, like, the whole, like, EI cut thing with Samurais where you kind of have that slow
Mhm.
pause of nothingness and into the lightning fast
Yeah,
flash. I think they capture that very, very well.
it's just fire.
I think most of the melee DPSs I feel capture their aesthetic really well.
Actually,
when
you know
it
what? I
comes to,
lied.
like,
It's
the
Monk.
aesthetic. Monks are very good about that.
I think it's Monk.
Um, ninjas are really solid. Samurai is very good.
Viper
I
doesn't.
think-
Dancer, I think, is a good one.
Viper doesn't.
Yeah, Viper's just guy with 2 swords now because they got.
I
rid of,
think
like,
Black Mage was really good. I think it's not bad now, but it is worse than it was.
What makes you say that?
I think when they added 2 charges to triple casts, Black Mage lost a bit of its identity with that.
Okay, I can see that.
They've like over 2 expansions now. They've kind of tried to make the job a little more forgiving and easier. And I think that goes a little bit against of like kind of what Black Mage was. Like it was supposed to be this like difficult glass cannon thing.
Yeah,
And
things are allowed to be
I'll-
difficult, man. Like,
yeah. And I think they've talked about that too, just like, they've gone a little too far in making things too easy. And we've seen with Dawn Trail that, they rein that in a little bit. Like I think most of the, the one-off dungeons in Endwalker, it was just like we went for a walk. And then half the
Yeah.
ones in Dawn Trail, like, oh shit, we're wiping to the first boss.
Yeah, here we go.
Twice.
I think they tested that with dead ends.
Yeah.
Because you can tell, like, you can, like, literally dead ends is the dungeon that goes from dungeons or whatever on autopilot to you better be paying attention.
Yeah.
Because every dungeon after dead ends is like, what the fuck is going on? like yeah.
Yeah, I think Black Mage was before. It's still mostly there. When they took Paradox away from Ice Phase, they definitely lost the plot on class, like fantasy class theme for sure. But they reverted that one, so that's good. That was I could be angry about that for half an hour. Like, hey, look, we added a fire ice spell to Black Mage. You can cast it in Fire Phase and Ice Phase, and then they took it out of one of the phases. I don't know, man.
I just don't. I mean, I'll just go back to what I said earlier. So I just don't think that you should be able to go through the entire game and have the same level of difficulty, the same level of comfort, the same level of experience by playing one job in everything. I think that's whack. like I think that's whack. I don't care how much you like fucking playing Reaper. You should at least have the thought of when you're playing Reaper being like, well, I mean, Reaper's cool and all, but like against this boss specifically, maybe
Yeah.
Samurai will be better.
And it touches on what we were saying earlier. Like, it's like they have this idea that they don't want to force a player to have to play multiple jobs, but you have designed a game where that's there.
I can be every job.
You can do that. Like, the game is designed for it, but you don't want to force players to have to do that.
But it's also War Champ 2. It's like it's also the lore thing. Again, you are the warrior of light. That's your superpower. That's the thing that you can do that literally no one else can do. Literally, the only other people who can do that are literal like ancient beings, like and other warriors of light. And even that, even that guy had friends. That guy was a warrior. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you were a warrior if you felt like it. Like, I don't get it. Ah!
It feels like they're being pulled in 2 directions constantly.
I just wish they pick a lane.
Yeah.
I can't wait. Now, and the thing is, now I can't wait till we talk about leveling. Holy fuck. Holy fuck, I'm gonna complain. Holy shit. It's not even about DPS.
It is for me.
I mean, it probably will be, but not what I'm mad about right now. Cool.
Good talk.
What if we just ended the show right there and like I just cut it, like just dead quiet?
Anyway, give Dragoon another jumpy flippy skill.
What? Okay, and now quick, everybody add a class that you want and give them a bullshit skill. Okay, so Dragoon wants another jumpy flippy skill. I want a big. I don't have enough big booms for my gun, so I need another big boom.
I want a
Also,
flamethrower that
rant.
works.
Sorry, Mike. Rant real quick. Fuck you, Yoshi P. Okay,
Hey.
why did Why did you make? Fuck you for making the super level 100 crazy ass ability a series of AoEs. Fuck you, man. Give me big beefy single target damage on my gunbreaker, you shit lord. I want big booms, okay? I'm done.
I want a flamethrower that works.
Real. That's so real.
We said we were gonna kill Tito, but I didn't think that was how it
Oh,
was gonna
shit.
happen.
I was
Yeah.
drinking something. Fuck. I did not expect him to say that. Fuck.
That's all I want. I just want a flamethrower that works, man.
Oh,
80 potency for 10, like 10 seconds. No, give me like 400. If I'm committing 10 seconds, I want it to do damage.
I'm fucking weak. Should be a
I
dot.
want Mana Ward to be a counter.
Yo!
Like I want to be able to like eat one mechanic on purpose using Mana Ward
Yeah,
to do
that's
damage.
fire!
Just
That's-
Black Mage parry. Oh,
Yeah.
what happened?
Yeah.
That's
how do
like
you
what
do
the
that?
samurais do to gain Genki with their third eye thing.
Oh,
That's
shit.
really cool. I like that a lot.
Because like Black
Or-
Mage's whole thing is that you have to stand still and you're stuck standing still, but like they've kind of accounted for that by giving you like 2 charges of triple cast. It's like, okay, you can just be mobile half the fucking fight. And it's like, no, like make me sit in place, but make me think about it and like handle it.
And you can move your ley lines once.
Yeah, like they added that too. Like make it so that like Mana Ward in my ley lines is like a counter or like immunity or something. Like if I burn 2 of my biggest cooldowns as a Black Mage, let me do something with it. Let me
just
be
make it-
tactical with it.
Make it an invuln. That'd be pretty
Yeah,
cool.
like if you Mana Ward inside your lines, either like an invuln or a counter, where like a portion of the damage taken gets like redirected back, or like if the God, at that point it's like it's just TBN. If it's just like if the shield breaks, it does damage. It's TBN with extra steps. But honestly, not opposed to that.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's fine.
Like if Mana Ward breaks, give me full stacks of Polyglot. So I also have to like plan for like blowing all my stacks before I pop it to eat something. You know?
I just want and I think when we're gonna have an episode on tanks, and we're really gonna talk about tanks. I want Yoshi and the rest of the team to stop being so afraid of giving jobs more identity.
Yeah.
Just stop. If I'm playing a gunbreaker and leveling it to 100, it's because I want to be a gunbreaker. So let me be a gunbreaker with like mechanically from gameplay, not just the fact that the VFX is there. Because the VFX is fine. It's good. That's like one of the best parts of playing most of these classes. But it's like, no, bro, I'm playing the exact same way. I'm playing Dark Knight. I'm playing the exact same way, damn near I'm playing like Paladin, or you know what I mean? Like just let me dive in head first, neck through the fucking window into the fantasy of the job. That's all I want.
Through the window.
Yeah, let me just stick my fucking face through that window, man. Just be like, hey, how's it going? Like I want to do that. I am normal.
Yoshi P has said that they went too far on the homogenization. So I do hope that like with the job reworks, a little bit more identity is coming.
What is because we gotta wrap up here, but what is one thing because I know it's far as fuck away, but as always, Warchamp and I are gonna make our called shots right now. We're gonna be right. So Warchamp, what are the classes coming out in the next expansion?
Oh fuck.
One's a
That's
phase
so
range.
far. That's so far.
One's a Fizz ranged.
I feel like we can't guess this because they're gonna have to invent stuff from now on.
Yep.
Did they confirm that they are going to do more jobs? In the first place? Because I feel like they were talking about like.
I don't think they can drop an expansion without a new job. At least one.
At least one.
And I think it's either Fizz range or I think it's a tank. We're overdue for a tank.
You know what my calls are?
Go ahead, Verum. Talk to him.
I think again a Fizz range is going to be a Buccaneer / pirate class.
Okay.
That uses a gun, but it's not like Machinist, which uses a load of like high tech stuff. It actually just uses a gun.
It's a blunderbuss.
Yeah, like a blunderbuss. It just shoots.
Yeah.
They just shoot.
Yeah. Shoot and then stab.
And then the other one.
Limit
Okay.
break is just like their limit break is just like the black pearl comes up from the ground.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Or instead of meteor, it's just a bunch of it's just make it rain from misfortune. They just fucking they just use
It's just an
misfortune.
armada of ships.
Yep.
Okay, what
And
else?
the other one.
Uh-huh.
All right, we're getting another healer,
Fuck.
and it's gonna be apothecary. They're gonna be
Ooh.
mixing potions and shit,
Hope so.
and those potions will
throwing
have
it,
different effects.
Don't give me hope.
and you're gonna
Please.
and you're gonna throw them at your friends.
Yes.
Please don't give me hope.
God,
You're gonna
bro.
throw potions on the ground. They're gonna create AoEs. People are gonna stand in those AoEs.
No,
No, let's be
I
real.
want to throw them
people
at my
won't stand in
friends, and
them.
they're fucking damp as hell.
They're gonna finally bring back the class system with alchemist, and it's gonna dual spec
Yeah.
into apothecary, healer, and something else. They need to do magic melee. I want like Rune Knight.
I think we're overdue for a tank. If I'm being honest, I think we're overdue. Because the last tank is what? Dark Knight?
Gunbreaker, yeah.
Oh, Gunbreaker, sorry. Like, I think
It's been a
we're
while.
overdue.
And it's the same with Fizz ranged.
Yep, for sure.
Both of those are Shadowbringers. The two that were released this time match up with the two that were released for Stormblood. So if you're pattern sensing, then
That's true.
Fizz range tank might actually be the next two.
And it's a fucking blitzball.
That'd be cool.
Actually, Veer's
The new tank's just like a fucking rugby player.
yeah, ranged tank.
I know a bunch of people have been calling for Geomancer for a while. That could be something they
You know what I want, Mike? You know what I want if it's a tank, man?
elaborate.
I want a big ass hammer, dog.
Oh, true.
I want a
Hammer
big
time.
fucking hammer, bro. I fight this red guy every time I do main scenario, and he has a big fucking hammer. Where's my hammer?
Was
I
it
think
you-
I've
was I talking to, or did I read this somewhere that somebody had like pictured an engineer class that used like a hammer as a weapon, but like took the machinist, basically big robot. They have like hammer skill and then summon big machines to do shit.
That's fire. That sounds like a DPS though.
I mean, right? It's not going to be a tank, but like, there's a hammer,
I want
hope.
the Garlean hammer. That's like a jet engined hammer,
a gun hammer,
like a gun.
So-
Yeah,
hero's gun hammer.
they could do a ranged tank if they did something like WoW Hunter, like with Hunter, like Tank Hunter, where they use their pet to tank. Because then you can be
Ooh, a pet
ranged and you can
class,
control
yes!
where like the aggro like target is if you
I
move your
want
pet
a
around.
very
I want a
excited
pet
to see
class
how
so
that's
fucking.
That would
bad.
be so hard to play on controller though, so I don't
I
think
don't
they'll
give
do
a
it.
fuck. I want a pet class so
Dude,
fucking
did you see
bad.
did you see the live letter where they talked about like the peripheral choice? It's like 99% controller in Japan.
Is it really?
Ooh, you're wrong.
It's wild.
I'm really excited to see how Beastmaster plays.
Oh
It's
yeah,
like if there's anything that's going to be a pet class, it's going to be that.
we're
I
once
hope.
once we fucking figure out when that's dropping, then we'll do the Blue Mage episode,
Yes, I'm so
and
excited.
everyone has to level Blue Mage before then.
I'm
I
already
refuse.
there.
I
Vic-
refuse.
No,
All right,
join
so-
us.
No.
Does anybody know what
Have
other
umbrella.
kind of recurring FF job uses a hammer?
There's a few.
I'm not the Final Fantasy guy. That's Mike.
I think if you give me a bit, unless this is time sensitive, in which case
We are on a podcast.
No, I know. But uh,
So the one that I have in mind is Time Mage, and I
Oh,
want
cool.
Time Mage as a tank,
Time Mage is
where
tanky.
it uses like the kit is just like mana ward adjacent type stuff, like mitigation and damage rewinds, and then they tank with the hammer.
That'd be so.
That would be really cool.
It's like a caster, but then through time magic manipulation, they are like capable of tanking, and so you get this like melee caster tank that is like a magic user. I think
There's
could
an
be really cool.
Hammers. Why can't I here? And Geomancers. Geomancers can too.
Because I think too, if you had a lot of like party buff stuff on it, you know, that could also like necessitate, you know, the class being ranged to some capacity, because like they're melee on the boss, but they need to be able to cast stuff on like allies. I think you'd create a really unique and strong identity of a tank
Let's see,
by kind of
what-
turning a lot of things on its head.
What FF jobs use hammers? So we have the Geomancers that were mentioned, Vikings in FF3. So that's something. Sid in 4, but he's more of like that's your more engineer kind of thing. Berserkers. You could actually have a berserker, but you know, separating that from warrior might be a pain. Let's see. Kind of it. 12 had that weird Zodiac license system, so that was kind of a Green Mage. Green Mage.
People think Green Mage is a lock at some point.
Yeah. People looking at Green Mage and Geomancer. I don't know, man. We'll see.
I think the time for Green Mage was when we got Sage. I think Green Mage is going to get passed up now
Tough.
for just like a unique concept. Yeah, I think there's a lot of ways that they can go. They've talked about how they're going to kind of adjust their direction for jobs in the future, so I'm tentatively excited for that. But I think we're going to wrap up today's episode here. Thank you everyone for listening. We appreciate you tuning in. We'll see you next Tuesday at Reset with another episode. Make sure to follow us everywhere, you know, at Light Party, or on Twitter at lightparty_pod. We appreciate you guys for listening, and we'll see you at the next one.
Man, fuck Blue Mage.
Fuck
No!
Blue Mage.
Yeah.
Fuck Blue Mage.
Yeah, fuck Blue Mage.
I'm being bullied.
Hey,
Fuck Beastmaster.
hey, beat that guy up. He's playing Blue Mage.
Not me standing at the FC house as Blue Mage right now.
Oh no, that's why I logged off.